Good morning from the LBC. We got plenty of light as usual. Hello. So welcome, and I'm so glad you're here. You must have liked the title of this one, Forever Young. Maybe kind of a controversial idea, but what I like about it is it actually helps us embrace aging and have more choice within how we're feeling and what we're expecting, and knowing that we are doing important things to help the body and the mind and all of us, all parts of us, really get functioning more and more and more at their best. And just all that might go along with feeling young. And I'm so happy to bring this to you from my perspectives and practices. I'm 43 and a half or so, and truly sharing from what works for me and what I'm using and how I'm choosing. And just wanting to help you who might be ready. If you're here, that says a lot about what you're ready for. So I'd love to hook you up with more tools, more understanding, and helping your perspective, especially as far as feeling, even looking forever young, and understanding how your yoga is working for you. Because again, if you're here, it's probably because you have some interest, some love of yoga in some ways. And I'm just super excited to share with you from my understanding at this point along my yogi path, just simply but yet powerfully how yoga can work. And really this is a big topic, and so I'll be probably giving us more of an intro, again, from my understanding, from my perspective, and what I'm calling yoga therapy, and how that works, the different pieces of the practice, and the different pieces you can start to make part of your practice. And so what this all comes from is my love and real feeling that it's all about personalizing our practices. And so yes, learning from others and even attending group experiences, but to me it's all about picking up tools along the way for our own personal toolbox that then we now know to use both preventatively and responsibly with ourselves, with our bodies, with our health, with our minds, with our feelings and emotions and moods, with our relationships, even with our reality, what we're choosing to focus on, how we're observing it all, how much our perceptions are even of influencing it all. So all of this could be under the scope of yoga and how yoga works. So I'm looking to just have fun covering some of the bases of the important tools that I love from what I call yoga therapy, so that this could be another place that you pick up some more tools, some more understanding even of what you might already be doing and how it's working and or not working. and yeah, just helping you keep filling up that toolbox so that you can let it be just right for you and have more and more ideas on how to feel better now and how to feel better later. So that's what drives me, is I love how these practices and these perspectives help me to feel better now and increase the likelihood that I will feel better later. So we'll get into some of that. Like, what does that look like? What kinds of tools are we talking about? And how do they work? And then I've always loved as a teacher, and so I love to bring this up during teaching with any of these tools. I think when we recognize and realize and even focus on what these things are doing for us, it makes it even more powerful, because we get to bring in that mind and that focus and that even belief going up about what's possible for us as far as how we can feel, how we can function, and how we can age. So this is the kind of stuff I'm interested in and excited about, and just wanting to share some of the greatness I'm seeing through my quest through yoga therapy and beyond. And of course, I've had so many places and people I've learned from, and I am choosing right now to call it yoga therapy, but that's come from lots of different teachers and trainings that aren't always called yoga. For instance, I will be sharing some of the important stuff I've learned through my Egoscue method training and getting to be a therapist for them for many years. How that really helped me understand how to use, for instance, the postural therapy of the postures and how those poses work and how we can use them to shift alignment and reinforce alignment, and how important that is. So I have to say, thanks to my Egoscue training to really bring this all together for me and to help me get it specific as far as how I'm addressing what I discovered about my own structure and body, and how to get efficient with the practice. Because sure, you might think, well, if I could do exercises all day, or if I could do an hour and a half practice, I might go after everything. But Egoscue is really where I learned how to specifically look at a posture, specifically get it in alignment with the right poses for that posture. And it's terrific because it always helps pain stuff, because almost always pain stuff is related to misalignment. So anyways, and this has a lot to do with aging too, and why we feel like we do in our bodies. We're just talking about our bodies. What we've seen go before us as far as aging, and even maybe what some of us are experiencing now. Maybe if you're a 30-something-year-old and you found yourself saying that you feel old, then I'm glad you're here. Because I'd love to help you understand why the heck there's no reason for that, and that even at 60, 70, 80, we don't have to feel old. But it's not just about imagining it there, although that helps if you have your eye on a possibility of aging. I like the idea of aligned aging and what that can look like. And but yeah, it does come down to what you're doing every day for the bod, with the structure, with the energy flow, with how much we get to affect all of our systems, and continue to build strength. That is important. And so it doesn't mean about hardcore hot yoga necessarily, but the strengthening of important muscles is important too. So yeah, we'll definitely touch on postural therapy as one of the tools of yoga, and how we use some of these important poses and why. And so yes, just had to say a little heads up to my Egoscue foundations that really helped me see that. But really, I see this is what the yogis over hundreds and maybe thousands of years. It's actually a little controversial right now about how long yoga's been around. Some people say it's been thousands of years, and some people say maybe it's just been hundreds of years. But what's cool is, remember, yoga just means union, or to join, or to connect, or to align. So it doesn't even have to involve anything you do with your body, even though you are in your body, right, at all times. But there's many facets, many pieces, many possibilities with yoga, especially as you really keep coming back to yoga just means union. It really just means union. But from this quest for union, lots of great specifics have been formed and continue to be formed. And that's what's so cool, is this is a continually growing field. And you'll find, like I love to say, anytime I go to anyone else's class, I always learn something new, because right now the field's continually being expanded by a bunch of creative people interested, you know, and it was already a vast field. So, you know, there's a lot I'm still learning, and a lot of pieces of it that I'm yet to get into. And but it's fun for me to just be cool with this feeling and even have fun with that. It's such a vast field, but yet so simple. And then what's really, yeah, my thing is helping you personalize your use of this stuff. And eventually it's going to be about you, guiding you. And that's what yoga is all about to me. And so even if you're a teacher of yoga, I feel like it's still always coming from your practice, what you're sharing with your students. And actually, I do look forward to sharing some training soon for yoga and other types of practitioners who might want to learn more about this important alignment stuff I've learned through my Egoscue training and such, and how that factors into what we might call yoga therapy. But yes, more goodness to come. So, so how yoga works, and how we can choose and even increase our feelings of feeling young. And actually, I'm feeling glad that I included that word, forever, because it might even also get us in tune with yoga really helping us play with the ideas of infinite parts of us. And so forever is kind of cool in that way. But I'm just feeling even more like, heck yeah, we can keep feeling young and nimble and quick. We can keep actually even feeling better and increasing that when we really remember how the human body functions, and all the different levels of ourselves we can get into. You know, like how yoga also really reminds us and teaches us that we're all energy and we're all made of energy. And so this is really, really powerful and different as we start to approach ourselves. And if we think of it even like a life force that we are and that we're carrying, and then again, back to this aging, what if aging is just kind of like a diminishing of that life force, but not something that has to necessarily happen? That usually, maybe that's happening because the being isn't getting quite the alignment, the union it could. And yeah, the more that we can get into this magnificent alignment with the structure, with the mind, with the understanding, with, you know, our spiritual feelings as well, that this is really going to change how we feel and keep us more and more feeling this feelings of youth, which I think actually we might all agree that youth equals lots of energy, right? And like even an ease with energy and a playfulness and a possibility. So, yeah, let's get into some of that and some of how some of yoga's tools can help us choose this and grow this and be this and have more fun along the way. So, yeah. You know, some of what I love to share, if I do get to talk to people about yoga, because most of us think of yoga as the exercises. So we'll get into the exercises in a minute. But another really big piece that I think we get from yoga's teachings and ways of being that's important for how we're feeling and how we're aging is this getting back into a state of holding ourselves, of awareness, that's a lot easier on the systems and on the energy and on all parts of us. So, you know, yoga really reminds us every time we're practicing or just remembering to focus, to maybe invite more union in this moment, that one of the biggest things that we're doing when we look at it is we're making a shift in our mindset and our perception of right now and how we're holding ourselves and observing ourselves and how we're receiving the moment and experiencing what's around us. So it's this big shift of gears that we get to do. And it's a shift towards, there's this big component of relaxing that, you know, most people now think of yoga, oh yeah, if I need to learn to relax, maybe I should go to yoga. So it's interesting that a lot of these tools are going after helping us reestablish a state of being that is a lot healthier and easier on the body, it turns out. Now it's cool we have the science, since so many of us need to see it to believe it, right? So now it's cool that we're seeing and everybody agrees that relaxing is really, really, really good for us. And I'm so noticing how much I think we all have so many ways we could learn to relax more. And yeah, we've really gotten into this like cultural bracing ourselves and holding on. And I see that through my own experience. And so I imagine that others around me likely too are feeling. You take a look at how we are holding ourselves when we're not being as conscious. And that's why usually, yeah, when we start a practice, and this has actually become something we just can do throughout the day. So like here's the first step of bringing yoga into your life, is just more often checking out how we're feeling, bringing our attention into this moment. And yes, there's a taking a look at how we're holding ourselves, and with that important non-judgment, which we've talked about. That's a big one alone. We could do a whole hour on that. But yeah, that we start to just notice how we are holding ourselves, and that gets bigger and how much we can look at it, and then learning to shift that towards a lot more of a relaxed state, just softer, easier, not holding on tight, constricted energy, softening, easing. For some of us, that's where stillness is really helpful, but also that's where some of these postures help. If we're having a hard time relaxing, these postures can help get things in order so that we can be in that relaxed, more natural, more healthy state, which, as we consider what it's like for a body over 20, 40, 60 years to be cruising around stressed out like most of us have been, just that alone, consider what that's doing. You know, now we know so much about how we feel and even how we're thinking, how that's affecting all of our cells and all of our organs and all of our systems. So when we consider what that's doing to us and how we're feeling, and remember that idea of like life force and energy, like what's going on with all the energy with that, and even just the work of kind of, you know, how does that allow the energy to flow when we're cruising around so uptight? So yeah, a big piece of this is just learning, being able to go in, take a look more often, and then learning tools. And that's again where we and why we use so many of these tools, like the postures. Like there's thousands of breath things we can do, but the simplest is just to be like breathing into the belly more and exhaling more. Exhaling super helpful with relaxing. And then just the fact that we can practice consciously softening and relaxing. But then we also, yeah, have lots of other tools we can use. We use sound, we use imagination, we do use the power of words, both in, you know of the words like Om and different mantras that are Sanskrit words, but it really also plays into the words we're using in our own language, and the vibration of all of that. So anyways, we use all these tools to keep coming back to being able to chill out into now. And again, to consider what's the aging process if there is some inherent aging process that might be looming, um, how does that go with, how we're holding ourselves over 20, 40, 60, 80 years? Versus how, if we start to really practice becoming a lot more just relaxed, whatever our ways, how much does that change the energy, the life force, how we're feeling, what's happening for all the organs, our immunity? I mean, that just seems so obvious, doesn't it? Like, how different is our immunity and our digestion and our blood pressure? So yeah, it's a really good time to hone in on adding more of this for what we see it can do. If we needed to see it to believe it, we've got it now. We see it. It's so cool. Because I think that's one thing that the yogis have probably been famous for. If anyone has any like preconceived stereotypes of the yogis, right, is that they would live really old, right? Didn't you hear that one of like those 100-year-old yogis who could still do all these amazing postures, and to maybe hold their breath for minutes, and even yogis have a reputation for having been able to levitate and start to perform different feats. And then the other stereotype is that they look really young, even when they're really old. So yeah, here it is. But now we have the science backing it if you needed it, which we probably all, it doesn't hurt. And again, that's where it's so cool as you realize the power of what you're doing. For instance, when you just relax or when you use some of these tools, it's like motivation. It's like, oh my God, this is going to change how I feel tomorrow, how I feel right now, how I feel tomorrow, how I feel 20 years from now. And that, yes, the core of it is really going after changing how we're holding ourselves all day long and how we're being. And so that does translate into weaving in these different tools throughout our days. That's how I see it. But that becomes fun. That it's again about union, about joining. So whatever that is for you. So yes, I would recommend it. It would probably include some of the important postures for your unique structure and situation right now. But that's going to also help you know you're doing something for your body. That's really going to help your mind feel at ease, and it's going to affect how your mind feels. But yeah, that it's about doing more things that bring you union. So it might also be sitting to write in your journal, or reading a wonderful story, or having a conversation with someone who fills you up and you just love how you feel with them, or just imagining something that feels good, that you're thankful for, that you're looking forward to, or just how that all plays into how you're going to be holding yourself in response to that choice, and then how that's going to affect you in the now, in mind, body, and your spiritual possibilities of, and just experiencing that part if you want. How much more open are you and ready to like tune into the magic of something like spirit when you're like more soft and relaxed and aligned and open and even more listening and feeling versus just think and usually same thoughts every day, right? So yeah, again, when you consider, if we're thinking about how we're feeling and wanting to feel forever young, you start to see how this kind of therapy is going after that. So yeah, just the power of relaxing more, holding ourselves differently, starting to look at ourselves differently, and look at whatever symptoms or imbalances, quote unquote, or yeah, stuff coming up right now as just kind of like valuable information and an indicator of maybe some misalignments in various ways, whether it's in your bod or in your thinking or in some other ways, and that the remedy is always going to be more alignment, more union with you, and even infinite you. So, yeah, and to consider how that's, again, affecting how you're feeling and functioning in your now, and how you're going to wake up feeling tomorrow. So, yeah, you start to see that before we even talk about the postures or even the coolness of the breath, really the mindset, the choosing that we start to get to do with our awareness and attention. So it's a lot about awareness, attention, focus. And so, yeah, again, without even talking about the postures, starting to weave in those tools and knowing that that's how you can like manage this ride and feel better. And again, really change how you're holding yourself and what you're creating for you tomorrow and you 20 years from now. So it's really powerful stuff and comprehensive, and yeah, it's like the yoga, the psychology of yoga is one of the tools that's actually going to help us stay feeling forever young. Isn't that so cool? I'm going to take a sip of my something warm. You're always invited to have your cup of tea or coffee, or I have hot water with lemon. And that's another like thing I'm doing for myself lately more, because I love coffee and tea, but I'm just adding more hot water with lemon, which it sounds like it's really healthy for us and does all kinds of great things for our bodies. So I like that. It's like one of my feel-good yoga therapy practices now is to like add in the hot water with lemon and enjoy my cup of coffee. Hell yeah, my cup of coffee is part of my yoga. You heard it here. Okay, so I definitely want to talk a little bit about these awesome poses and how they work. Because, yeah, there is good reason that that's one of the big things that yoga is famous for, is that it's a system of exercise therapy, really. But the foundation of it comes from this look at the body and the systems. Well, maybe even I should first say that, again, this look at it all as energy is an important piece that we get from yoga. So right there, we could we should spend an hour talking about how it's all energy. But then to think of what we're doing with these postures when you get into how it's all energy. That's freaking awesome. And the yogis have been in tune with that for a long time. You know, the yogis are some of the people who might talk about that we also have these energy centers called chakras that have a lot to do with how we're feeling and functioning, and really have emotional, spiritual, and physical all blended, and how that plays into our stuff. So we use postures from yoga to address the energy, like in the big picture. That's a lot of what we're doing. But that's again where we start to right away see how important it can be to get personal with it and to get some guidance to really work with, if you're going to use these poses. And again, I think most of us are safe to add more of the restful, relaxing poses. It's a pretty good safe bet to say, yeah, most of us could benefit from any posture we can just put ourselves in that's going to turn the system toward calm. And so a lot of these postures work like that. And so, yes, that may be an arena where it's almost always appropriate. But we also want to do more with these poses than just calm the system down. But yeah, that's the first piece, that a lot of these poses work and turn on the relaxation response. Again, we learned about that one from the scientists, that, you know, the body has the stress response and the body has the relaxation response. And so each gets fired up, and each has its effects on the body, right? So when we're stressed, there again, that's about how we're holding ourselves, which I do feel like, yeah, many of us have been in hyper stress mode. You know, even if we're not going through something like things can feel so serious and important, like just like something like rushing. I've been like tripping out on rushing again lately. And that was first brought up to me by my friend Tracy, who's one of my favorite parent educators and child educators, but about how like children will resist rushing so much because they know it's toxic and they know it's not good for us. And that like piqued my interest. It was like, whoa, what's up with that? And now lately again too, I've been noticing, because I sure now notice, now that I'm really so tuned into how I'm feeling, even though there are still, you know, are moments where I'm not noticing and I'm just buzzing around. But yeah, I notice in my buzzing around, and especially if there's any elements of rush, oh my God, it does not feel good. And I'll notice even with just a few minutes of rush or just a little bit of a pace of rush, it's like, ugh, it does not feel good. But, you know, a lot of us are just like, that's how we're feeling all day long. We're so used to it, we don't even notice it as feeling bad because we don't know anything different. But again, think about what's that like on the systems when we're long run, cruising around, rushing all the time. So the cool, great news is, though, that we can remedy that with 5 minutes, 1 minute, 20 minutes, with one pose, with a few poses, and that will immediately shift that for you. And it's important, like medicinal work we can do. And I love that. And I use these poses and some of the other techniques, you know, you can play with while you're in them too. That's what's cool, that while you're in a pose, you can be practicing your conscious relaxing, and practicing that awareness shift is going to be so helpful. And even using your breath in more, you know, therapeutic, helpful ways, and even using your imagination in more helpful therapeutic ways. So you can do a lot while you're there in a pose. But it's also awesome that you can just be there and the pose will start to do its work. And it'll shift your system right away into relaxation mode. So instead of stress mode on the system, stress, we know, corresponds with higher heart rate, higher blood pressure, disrupting digestion, generally weakening the system, lowering immunity, probably messing with thyroid function. But the coolness, yeah, relaxation mode does all the opposites. So just to give yourself a few minutes of it, especially if you want to use a power tool like some of these poses, wow, you'll notice how different you feel, how much better. And the pose does it from the inside out. You get to just be there, let the pose do its work, and you'll be amazed at how different, how much better you feel. And you know, that's where it does become important which poses you're using that are going to bring your particular body and structure and health condition relief. If you really want to get relief the fastest, if you really want to change things the fastest, feel better the fastest, the more personal the better. And yeah, unfortunately, sometimes some poses are not going to be appropriate for your body. There are a lot of poses I don't do. I don't want to do them because I don't care if I could do them. I want to feel good. So, you know, that's where my Egoscue training really has helped me hone in on which poses I'm going to use, which poses I'm going to prescribe, and how to use them specifically to go after specific misalignments. So, yeah, that's the next piece of how these postures can work beyond just the idea of things like shifting us into that relaxed mode that's so much healthier and feeling better, and a place to shift the awareness and all that good stuff. the postures, one of the big ways the postures work, especially if you use them correctly. And, you know, some would say something like a sun salute is a nice balanced practice. I think the sun salute has a lot of what our bodies need or needed in the past. I think most of us do need to have some more specific hip work in there, for instance, because in our culture, so many of us are sitting a lot more than they were hundreds of years ago. So sometimes a generalized practice with poses can be just fine, but I see a lot better results and definitely more sure to not make things worse if you can get specific with which postures you use and use them even in a specific sequence so that you specifically can make some changes that are going to translate into you feeling better, functioning better, and then even, yeah, aging differently, really differently. So these poses work, one of the ways they work is they're like a chiropractic adjustment that you're giving yourself. So that's where what I do is called postural therapy. And yes, it is based on this foundation that the human body was built to be in good alignment. And we're born in good alignment. Most of us, yeah. And children generally have pretty good alignment until they start sitting a lot. And we can actually maintain and be in good alignment for a lifetime. And good alignment translates into the body functioning at its best. So good alignment is going to mean how the structure is naturally holding itself and how we're walking around all day. And unfortunately, most of us have some misalignments these days because of many things. You know, yes, it may be due to some injuries along the way. It probably has a lot to do with lifestyle and what sorts of positions we're putting the body in, what kinds of things we're asking the body to do. It might also have to do with, you know, even like athletic training, and if we've developed some real strong left and right differences, that can start to create some real problems. But yeah, these days most of us have at least some misalignments from a perfectly aligned structure, which again would be kind of head centered between the shoulders, shoulders in line with each other, hips that are level, knees that point straight ahead, feet that point straight ahead. And from a side view, we should have ears right over shoulders, right over hips, right over knees, right over ankles. And postural therapy is not about teaching you to stand up straight. That's one of the biggest misconceptions with now what we all know about posture. People think, oh, okay, so I should practice standing up straight and I should even try to run standing up straight, and it's not about that at all. Actually, that's a terrible idea because when you try to just consciously stand straight or walk straight, you actually are going to recruit some of the other muscles that aren't really meant to do that, and you're going to end up hurting somewhere else. So you cannot just consciously stand straighter. It's not a very good practice. If you're going to do it, you know, maybe, yes, standing at a wall at the end of your work with the postures, practicing standing straight for a couple minutes can be a strengthening exercise. But generally, you want to just do some of these postures and let that just do the work. And then you go about your day. The exercises did the aligning. Here's how that works. The exercises, you'll notice, and this is again why it's so important to get specific, but we want to use the exercises to stretch, to reposition or realign the structure, and to strengthen. So some poses are going to do all three. They're going to stretch, they're going to realign, and they're going to strengthen all in one, which is pretty cool. And then some poses will do some more than the others. But it's important that we get all three in our practice to really feel our best and to really capitalize on this feeling forever young thing. The alignment is what's making you feel old. If you go running and your knee hurts, it's not because you're old. If you can no longer swing a racket because of some shoulder pain, it's not because you're old. It has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with alignment. So I'm sure if you took a look at your own personal alignment in the mirror and just check out where things are actually at. And then you start to think about any of those symptoms or limitations you have or things that make you feel old or even just low energy, lack of energy, tired, stiff. That all has nothing to do with being old. It has everything to do with alignment, it turns out. But the coolest thing is that the body wants to return to good alignment because that's where it feels good. That's where home is. So if you just give it some of the right encouragement with these important exercises, and that's where, again, it's really best if you can get personal with this and get a specific sequence. I love to do that for people when they're ready to hook you up with a real specific, short, doable daily sequence that's going to go after your specific alignment. You'll be amazed at how you feel. I used to think I needed to do an hour and a half, 2 hours with poses to kind of get to that feeling of relief and feeling complete. But through my training, I got to learn how to put that together in 15 minutes and feel like that after 15 minutes. And then if I'm just willing to do that 15 minutes or something similar, going after my specific imbalances, it's amazing. I feel great. I'm able to function so well. I feel totally comfortable to run and jump and play and jump on the trampoline. And actually, I know that I'm going to keep feeling that way because every day I'm doing some of these important postures that are stretching me, realigning me. Again, that's a really important piece. And then, yes, also strengthening me. And yes, I do some strengthening as part of my practice, but after I've realigned some stuff. Because if you just go into strengthening with your misalignments, unfortunately, you're just going to strengthen those misalignments. So, for instance, we talked about hips. Most of us, we know most of us have some rounding in the shoulders and things happen, and maybe it tend to be twisted in the torso. Various things that are going on in the shoulders, but in the hips. And this may or may not be something that you're experiencing any symptoms from, but most of us have some stuff happening in the hips. Me too, I discovered, along my training, and that's why part of my daily work is some important stuff for my hips. Because most of us, and again, it's, really related to the fact that we're sitting so much. And I like to sit too. So what's cool though is we can do some daily work to fix that a little bit, to turn back on the muscles that do turn off when we sit, and to do some important alignment work, because as we sit and some of these various things with various misalignments, yeah, a lot of us have some mischief happening in those hips. Maybe a hip that's higher, maybe a chronic twist in the pelvis, maybe hips or a pelvis that's real tucked under, or maybe hips that are really tilted forward with a big arch in your lower back. And again, you may or may not be feeling that in your hips or low back, or you may. And that's what I love about this too. If you're ever feeling pain, if we take a look at your alignment, it always helps you understand why you're hurting. Why you're hurting, where you're hurting. Now it's no longer a mystery. It's no longer like, why is my lower back hurting? Why? You can realize, oh, it's because my right hip is a ½ inch higher all day. And I'm reaching and bending and even taking runs like that. And then I wonder why my low back hurts. And, I think this is something that the Western MDs are aware of. They might even tell you, oh, yeah, you have a hip higher. But they don't really know, it seems, they're not as in touch with this, kind of this underground movement of understanding that the yogis had, and then I really learned this at Egoscue. It's fixable. We can help you get that hip to go down, maybe even within just a few exercises. And then if you're willing to do some of that every day, and some of it is stretching the hip areas to get things in order, and that's part of the realignment, doing some specific stuff to realign. Through stretching, through engaging, we actually know that muscles move bones. So even if you've been told you have something like arthritis in a hip, this just means that we've got a misalignment. This is kind of arthritis is one of those classic things with aging. There's some types of arthritis that's more generalized and maybe more genetic, but I still think it's interesting to even go after those types. But for most of us, if we've been told we have some arthritis in a specific part of the body, this is just a misalignment. That's all that's going on there. And maybe your doctor even saw that too and showed you that in the x-ray. So if you hadn't figured it out already, yes, when you get like a femur bone twisted, when you have a hip higher, when you have things going on for years and years and years, you get friction bone to bone. That's called inflammation. That's called arthritis. So arthritis is just inflammation due to that misalignment. So arthritis isn't something we just have to get because we're getting older. It really, again, has nothing to do with aging. It has everything to do with alignment. So you can prevent arthritis by doing your daily work to attend to your alignment. And especially if you're someone who's using that body and going on runs or doing anything, yeah, it's kind of like a car cruising around out of alignment. The more we use that car, if we go off-roading, we're more likely to blow a tire. So if you're cruising around out of alignment, or you've decided you're going to start running, but you've got a hip higher and maybe a foot that turns out, and then you're wondering why your knee blows 2 weeks in, it was just misalignment, okay? But the good news is we can always start from where you're at, give you a nice personal practice to bring things in order and do some of that important stretching, realigning, and then, yeah, the strengthening is intended to teach your body to hold that new alignment. So, yeah, I do a daily kind of a chair pose, real nice aligned squat each day for about a minute as part of my work, because I've done some work in those hips through my practice to realign things, and then it's important to do something to strengthen, to hold that, and again, to just doing the daily developmental strengthening. We think that it's just kids who are growing and strengthening every day, but actually all humans are. That's not an age thing at all. So actually your body's not built to age, and there's no reason that it's just going to start to decline. Can you handle that one? So, but yeah, to get scientific, now we know how important it is to have the good alignment, and then how that's affecting things like how the joints are functioning and flowing, and then also these postures and things like movement, when done in the right ways, are helping to really lubricate those things, those joints. The whole body is helping to get circulation fluid and flowing. It's doing important work. Here's some more of how this stuff works. These postures also, we now know, so cool that they've been researching this stuff now. A lot of these poses do really great stuff for things like our organs. We can use these postures specifically to exercise the endocrine system. That's the system that has the thyroid. And we know so much that a lot of us are having thyroid stuff. And yeah, that does play into how we're feeling, how our energy is, and even how we're holding weight, and how we can normalize things is awesomely with some of these poses. And again, it's not about going and doing a hardcore athletic practice at all. It's about getting things in alignment, helping the energy flow. Because again, when we get back to that, this is all energy. And especially if we look at things like if we're holding on to extra weight and we just see that as energy, or we have a thyroid that's feeling out of balance and we just see that as an energy thing, now we can quite lovingly respond with starting to give ourselves something every day to help shift that. And it's not about attacking or mandating, but it's about just feeding ourselves with these practices and perspectives, knowing we're doing that important daily work for all those systems, for the energy flow, for the alignment, and then that just feels good too, to know you've done your thing, and then that you're doing your thing to help you keep feeling better and to help you keep feeling young and looking young. It's so cool how a lot of these poses do help us even look better. I have actually seen my skin look so much better these last 10 years from like 30 to 40, my skin got better. So I have no reason to think I'm not going to keep feeling better, right? And so that's where some of this belief comes in. Like at 43, I could be thinking, oh, I'm old. Pretty soon I'm going to stop doing more and more things. Pretty soon I'm going to be more tired. Pretty soon I'm going to have more wrinkles. Pretty soon I won't be jumping on the trampoline. But no, I have every reason to think I'm actually going to keep doing all those things. And then I can play with the idea that I can actually get myself even stronger. And that, yeah, I'm just like a kid. I am developing every day. Every day my muscles are ready to grow. Every day my cells are regenerating. And then the coolness, too, is now we know, like, everything in the human body regenerates within a year. Have you seen some of this research? So things like a liver, like, and some things is within like a week. We have a completely new liver within a, I don't know what it is, I can't name it, but it's pretty cool. So again, when we think about how we can use these postures and how they're affecting things like organs, we didn't talk about that so much, but when we're doing some of this therapeutic, beautiful stuff from these postures, and we look at how they're affecting things like kidneys and liver and spleen, and how, you know, when we do things like a gentle twist in the right ways, how this is going to gently squeeze the organs kind of like a sponge and bring in fresh blood and really just make sure we clear things out. So consider how much we could even be preventing things like cysts and other ways of disharmony if we just stay on top of keeping everything healthy and refreshed with fresh blood, fresh circulation, and then again, just energy. If we can just know that we're using all of this stuff to keep managing our energy. And I'm at the place where, you know, feeling so good a lot of the time, and kind of my quest sometimes is managing all the new energy coming in. And that sometimes it's still, could be easy to experience that as almost like anxiety or like too much. So then now it becomes my job to allow that and perceive that, enjoy that, and then keep using these practices to keep getting myself more and more aligned and relaxed and just enjoying tuning up along with all that new energy. And so actually, yeah, especially if we know and start to expect that we could actually be feeling better a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, and looking better even, and that we start to see, we never again say we feel old. I want to start that movement. Unless you're 100, let's not say you're old. It's just you're out of alignment, that's all. So it's really, really great stuff. And that's why I'm here sharing, because it's like, it's so simple. And I think once you really get it, you really get it. And again, if you're here, it's because you're already in this mindset in some ways and ready to own it. So, yeah, as you can see, we really just got a chance to dip in today to some of the power of how yoga works, and how it can correspond, align us with feeling forever young. And then there's that forever part, yeah, that yoga too is intended to be a spiritual practice if you want it to be. So yeah, also about that union with infinite divine you and all that's infinite and divine around you, and really getting into the feelings that we're all connected and that it's all connected and how that shift and focus and those feelings are going to also change how you're feeling and perceiving yourself as you even just play with being an infinite being. That feels lighter and different. And even, yeah, can really start to change our perceptions of death. And if we can start to like not be afraid of death, like how different would aging be too? Like what if we just are like, death is just the next adventure, you know? How cool is that going to be? But as embracing as I want to be about death, I'm super excited to be alive and to feel alive, and that I can know how I'm helping make sure I do feel as alive as I can, as alive as I want to feel, and that I can take steps to continue that, to ensure that. And yes, to be grateful and thankful for where I'm at, and that I have so many blessings, and that we all maybe don't have it as easy. But wherever you're at, there's probably a beautiful life you're in that you could meditate on more and love more. And how does that translate into you loving you more? And how you're loving yourself, loving your body, loving your journey. And just choosing to feel forever young. So yeah, just choosing it in your mind, but choosing it because of the actions you're taking too. And so this is some of how yoga works. And I look forward to sharing more of the specifics because it's just so fun and exciting. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more people of all ages saying, I feel young. I feel great. I'm so relaxed and at ease, and life is so fun. So I do believe we can own how we feel, we can choose how we feel, we can create how we feel, and that this is really going to create everything from there. So might as well. Works for me. And yeah, I super appreciate your being here. That's what I love about something like YouTube. It's totally just, who's ready for this? Who wants this? Who can I share with from my heart, my perspectives, my practices to yours? And just seeing ourselves, holding that vision, seeing ourselves, feeling ourselves more and more feeling young because of the loving choices we're making. And yeah, just a simple joy of enjoying here and now more, much less what's ahead. So I'm so thankful to share with you. And if you want some more specific ideas, you can always message me, and I could get you started on some ways to remedy how you're feeling, help you feel even better, even younger, even more alive, more here and now, and more loving here and now. So here's to loving here and now with you. A little clearing, and so thankful to share with you. Until we meet again, much love, my friends. So thankful, so glad to share with you. Namaste and adios.